My 26 female, boyfriend 36 male, has started acting distant and ghosting me after meeting my parents last week. How do I reach out to him? My boyfriend Derek and I met through mutual friends 6 months ago, and we immediately hit it off. He is sweet, funny, kind, and just generally a good guy. He is super extroverted, and I've never seen him dislike or not click with anyone. I mentioned him to my parents a couple of times, and they said they were excited to meet him. My parents live a road trip away, so me and Derek had to book a hotel nearby. About 2 weeks ago, we dropped all of our stuff in the hotel and arrived at my parents' house. My parents are the most welcoming people you'll ever meet. They've met some of my significant others in the past, and have always been warm and kind. Since both my parents and Derek are charismatic and welcoming, I thought that dinner would go smoothly. But I was wrong. It didn't start off too bad. My parents and Derek seemed a bit awkward, but I assumed he was just nervous. We sat for dinner, and my parents asked us a couple of questions. How did we meet? How serious is the relationship? Etc., etc. I've never seen Derek stutter or hesitate before this dinner, but he did. As soon as I finished eating, he thanked my parents for dinner and said that we had to go. It felt like he was rushing to get out of the house. When we got to the hotel room, he ran to the bathroom and I heard him throw up. He said he felt sick and he was going to head back home, but he insisted that I stayed and enjoyed the rest of the trip without him. I agreed since I really missed my parents, and he seemed to want to be alone. I texted him a couple of times asking how he was doing and if he felt better, but he didn't reply. After 2 days passed, I started to get really worried that maybe he was really sick and had to go to the hospital or something, so I cut the trip short and headed back home. I went to his apartment and saw that he was okay. I asked him how he was doing and why he wasn't replying, and he said that he felt fine and that I was overreacting. He told me he still felt sick and he wanted to be alone. I went back home and I texted him asking if I did anything wrong and if our relationship was okay since he was acting so weird and cold. A week has gone by since the text message and he has not replied. Derek is the last person that I would expect to ghost me. I'm torn between wanting to give him space and wanting answers. How do I even reach out to him without pushing him further away? In the comments, RazzleDazzle626 says, "Ask your parents. It sounds like they know each other or something happened that you didn't see or something like that." I think OP should tell her parents that she spoke to Derek but now needs to hear their side of the story. Clearly they have met previously and there's a dodgy story to be told. Getting the truth might require OP bluffing that she already knows. Either he slept with the mum before or they had a threesome. It's Reddit, so you know it's going to be good. Or he slept with the dad like that one post from several years ago. Interesting possibility. Derek is the dad's gaycation buddy. You must surrender to the gaycation. Your boyfriend's age definitely makes it possible that he may have had a prior run-in with one or both of your parents. Maybe it was sexual, maybe it wasn't, but the way that you describe it definitely feels like your boyfriend saw one or both of your parents, and the first thing that went through his head was, "I have to get the fuck out of here and never look back." I reckon maybe they're cousins somehow, and that's how this is going to go about. But really, the true storyteller and story lover in me wants Derek to be the dad's gaycation buddy. I want nothing more than that to be true. But, you know, it makes sense if he didn't tell them that he was the gaycation buddy, because obviously what happens on gaycation stays on gaycation, and you must surrender your mind, body, and soul to the experience. And now, onto the update, 5 days later. Hey Reddit, sorry I didn't reply to that many of your comments. They were mostly just saying that Derek was secretly my brother, which is horrifying, so I wasn't sure how to reply. I tried to reply to questions when I saw them pop up. The past few days have been a mess, but now that everything is settled, I thought I would go on here and update all of you. I took you guys' advice and decided to speak to my parents rather than Derek to discover if maybe they said anything or knew each other in the past, like many of you suggested they might. 4 days ago, I called my mum and told her about Derek's weird reaction after our dinner. I asked her for advice or if she knew what happened. She was silent for a moment, and I heard her start crying. She started apologizing and I didn't understand what she was trying to tell me at first. Eventually, I got her to calm down and she told me what had happened. My mum's a high school teacher, and apparently Derek was her student in his senior year, and she told me that they had an affair. She didn't give me that many details, and honestly I didn't even want to know. All she said is that they only slept together once before she shut it down, and that my father knew, and they had attended couples counseling years ago to work through this. She cried a lot and said that it was her greatest regret. Then she told me that she wanted me to break it off with Derek because he brought back really awful memories, and she found the age gap concerning. She's one to talk about age gaps. But ultimately, she said that it was my decision and she didn't want her past mistakes to ruin my relationship. I went to Derek's apartment again, and he invited me in. He said he had to tell me something, but I stopped him and told him that I'd already talked to my mum and knew everything. He promised me he had no idea up until the point we had come over for dinner, where he immediately recognized her. He apologized for ghosting me and said he just didn't know what to say, and he was scared that he would ruin my relationship with my parents or maybe ruin their marriage. I forgave him, but I told him that the whole situation was just too messy for me, and he agreed. So yeah, that's how my past few days have gone down. Honestly, I do kind of miss Derek, but not too much since the whole banging my mum thing is a massive turnoff. Thank you for all of the replies. I feel like I'll never see my mum the same again. How can I work on rebuilding our relationship and trust moving forward? In the comments, Leanna Van says, "So, mum is a predator." Yeah, throwing up after meeting her doesn't exactly say, "This was awkward," as much as it screams, "I am traumatized by what this woman did to me." That is huge. Oh my word, that poor man. Yeah, very gross actions by the mother overall. Not a good time, and she's a terrible person for doing that. Genuinely surprised that her husband stayed with her. That is absolutely repulsive. Maybe it's good that, someone that can forgive those actions stays out of the wider dating pool out there because, I don't know, I'm heavily judging OP's mum and dad. That is quite disgusting that they can just keep that between each other and greatly affect OP's relationship. Oh my god. I personally wouldn't see my mum the same again. I'd probably distance myself from her after learning about this. I don't think you should work on rebuilding the relationship and trust with her. She's gross. Our next post is by user Chroma Sparkles, and it's titled, "Reach out to the guy who rejected me?" So I, 31 female, was seeing a guy, 38 male, for about a month. We went on 7 dates total, we slept together twice. He seemed very excited about me in the first 3 weeks. Planning dates, kissing/holding hands/general PDA in public. He paid for every meal and activity, and he texted me daily. We had great conversations. Everything just seemed to be heading towards us happily dating. But then this past week, I suddenly noticed him slow fading me. And yesterday, when I asked if he was available at all this week, he sent me a text apologizing profusely, saying he thinks we should see other people. I simply replied while bawling my eyes out, "It's okay, good luck with everything." I deleted my Bumble account almost instantly after he sent me that message because I was ready to give up, but I remade it today. Today, after swiping a few times, his profile shows up and he deleted his and made a new one as well. No idea why, but that shows me that he didn't break it off with me for another woman. Of course, like a dork, I still swiped right, holding out some kind of dumb hope that we'll match again. Now, normally when I'm rejected by a guy, whether things were going well or going bad, I say my little good luck message and move on. But I honestly feel like this guy and I were on the way to something special. Now, I know that nothing I say will necessarily change his mind, but for some reason, I really wanted to send him a message. Maybe in like a week or two, after some time has passed. I want to let him know how I feel about him because I never really got the chance to. I had actually been planning on telling him this week how I was developing feelings for him. He was nothing but a gentleman. Very nice, generous, and he made me feel really special for the first time in a long time. And I really feel like he was developing feelings for me too. He proved it with his actions and words, which left me feeling like he was genuine. So for him to end things so abruptly has kind of left me confused. I know people are allowed to just suddenly change their minds with no explanation, and he is well within his right to. I would be lying if I said I wasn't hoping that the message would get him to change his mind, or at the very least, get the door open so that we can talk more about what happened. But I'm not a complete fool. I know more than likely he will read it and not respond, even though we didn't end on bad terms. Even knowing that it most likely won't make a difference, I still want to send it because I really do want him to know how much I liked him and appreciated him, even if he couldn't care less enough to respond. I feel like it would be very cathartic for me, and again, whether he responds or not, would give me some closure because I will have said everything that's been on my mind and in my heart for the past month. Should I go for it, or don't waste my time? In the comments, FlexDogWalk3 says, "To be honest, if it was the right person for you, it wouldn't be so difficult, and they wouldn't have said we should see other people. Cut your losses, heal, and move on. He isn't worth your time, and you should never have to convince anyone to be with you. If you feel like you have to, then maybe work on your self-confidence a bit, until you believe that someone who deserves to be with you sees your value and won't just walk away. You got this." Cognac and Cuddlin says, "Honestly, if I were you, I wouldn't reach out and would move on. I would also squash every idea about thinking you guys were on your way to having something special. In the ideal beginnings of a connection and relationship, you want the enthusiasm to come from both sides and to grow, not diminish. You had a 1-month whirlwind romance crash and burn. This could possibly fall under the umbrella of love bombing. After 7 dates and 30-ish days, you want someone that wants to continue seeing how things go because they too value the dates and conversations and sex. Rejection is a part of life. It sucks, but it is what it is. Don't hope or ask for closure externally, give it to yourself internally. Go on dates with other guys and get this guy out of your mind. If he was ideal and things were meant to be, you two would have a dinner date for tomorrow. Whatever you do, don't give up on dating just yet. Good luck." And Careless Ambush says, "This sounds like a situation where the advice, write a letter and then don't send it, would apply. Since you don't seem concerned about looking foolish, the only other downside is that he might never even acknowledge receiving or reading it, so you might always be in a position of questioning." And back up to the post, we have an edit. "You are all right. I won't send him anything. I might still write out the message like I originally intended for my own personal catharsis, but I will not send it to him. I won't make a fool of myself chasing after someone who told me they weren't interested. If he wants to reach out to me, he will. And if I never hear from him again, which I most likely won't, then that's my closure. Thank you for all the responses, even the ones that were a bit harsh." Yeah, I agree with all of the advice given here. Like, if it was meant to be, it would be. He has rejected you, and you need to accept that, OP. It really isn't worth it to beg someone for their attention, for their time, for their love, if they don't want to give it to you. Like, why are you setting yourself on fire to try and keep someone warm that doesn't want to be kept warm by you? Just think that through for a second. Thank you for listening to the advice and not ignoring everyone who only has your best interests at heart, like a lot of people do. And now, onto the update. So about 3 years ago, I made this post asking if I should reach out to a guy that I was seeing after he rejected me. The general consensus was no, and I didn't. But 3 months after I made that post, he actually reached out to me. We didn't speak to each other at all for those 3 months, and I didn't go on any dates with anyone else. My heart dropped when I saw the text from him, but I was still skeptical. After about 3 days of texting, he asked me to dinner. I grilled him on why he rejected me and why he decided to reach back out. I wanted to make sure he wasn't playing any games. If I had caught even a hint of it, I would have cut him off immediately. I'll be vague on the reason he gave for rejecting me for privacy purposes, but basically, he ended things because he thought there was an incompatibility between us. Even though he really liked me, he didn't want things to drag out and then break it off after one or both of us had caught major feelings. So I asked him why he then decided to come back, and basically he said that he realized that we had something really good going. He really liked me, and he would be willing to overlook the incompatibility because after he sat and thought about it, it wasn't actually that big of a deal in the long term. Note, it wasn't anything like kids, marriage, or anything major. Basically, he kind of made an assumption and ended things too early when he probably should have just waited and talked it out with me. He acknowledged his mistake and apologized multiple times. I also asked him if he had been seeing anyone else in the 3 months we were not talking, and he said no. He hadn't even been on any dates since me. Because he had never given me a reason not to believe him, I chose to. I was just trying to make sure that he wasn't using me as a rebound after he got dumped or something. So, long story short, we've been together ever since we went on that dinner, and 3 years later, we are now engaged. We are madly in love, and he truly is my best friend. My mum loves him, his mum loves me, he loves my fur babies, and they love him, so all is good. I decided to make this post not to brag, but to try and encourage some people to stop cutting others off so soon, or always assuming bad intentions when someone comes back. Believe me, in the past I've been led on and used by men, and probably should have cut them off. But looking back, the signs were there, and I chose to ignore them. My now fiancé has been nothing but a parade of green flags. But I was still cautious in the beginning of us dating. As much as I liked him, if he had shown me any red flags, I would have been gone. He came correctly and didn't play any games. He asked me to be his girlfriend without me having to beg for it, and he literally told me, I didn't reach out with any intention other than asking you to be my girlfriend. Don't be afraid of being someone's second choice, because essentially, we are all someone's second choice. If someone comes back to you, don't just assume they're coming back with bad intentions, unless they treated you badly from the beginning, but if someone was kind, caring, generous, etc., and maybe things just didn't work out the first time for some reason, it won't hurt to try again. It's just really important to make sure the person isn't playing games with you, and if you see that happening, then leave. Okay, this is really rambly. Sorry. Thanks for reading. In the comments, Usagi2 Throwaway says, I was bracing myself for the drama. I'm happy for you that everything worked out for the best. Congratulations on your engagement. Beginner dating advice. Following rules like don't let yourself be someone's second choice, because you're more likely to run into an actually bad version of that situation where the rule does apply. In this case, someone jerking you around or using you as a backup, and you don't have enough experience to tell when the rule doesn't apply, so following those rules is safer and lets you build experience. Advanced dating. Realizing that rules aren't universally useful, and life sometimes defies patterns or expectations, so you need to use your experience to decide how to handle each situation as its own thing, while still doing so with caution and eyes open. Congratulations, and I'm so happy that you were able to be open, yet cautious, and that your relationship worked out. Wishing you many years of happy marriage together. Congratulations. Sometimes someone comes back to you for a reason. Second choices and second chances can be first class. I'm of the belief that everyone has multiple possible soulmates, and so long as you find someone in at least the top 10 percentile, the difference is marginal. So really, you aren't buying much between a first and second choice anyways. It can come down to timing too, that perhaps at the first go both parties were not ready, but by the second one they are. That's why I don't think it's good practice to hold going back to someone as a categorical no, and it should be considered based on situation. Yeah, I'm happy that everything worked out for you in this situation, OP. It could have not worked out, but second time's the charm sometimes. And yeah, I like that beginner and advanced dating advice. That advice exists for a reason, and it's okay to follow the beginner dating advice until you build experience and can recognize when, you don't have to follow the don't let yourself be someone's second choice rule. Because yeah, it doesn't always apply, and this is an example of that. So thank you for the amazing story, OP, and congratulations on the engagement. This last story doesn't have an update, but I wanted to read it anyway. And it's by user Sharp Addendum 9864, titled, Am I the asshole for refusing to babysit for my siblings anymore and telling my family they can't use me as free childcare and treat me like shit for being an unwanted pregnancy? I, 16 male, have 4 siblings who are 11 plus years older than me. My parents were finished at 4 kids. My dad got a vasectomy, and then 6 years after it, my mum found out she was expecting me. She was 13 weeks along when they found out, and I was always told that if she had been earlier, she would have aborted me. My siblings hated that our parents had another kid. They're all close enough, but with me, I feel like a stranger, and it's not just the age gap. They used to call me Mum and Dad's mistake and Mum and Dad's oops, and stuff like that. They'd come home for Christmas and ignore me or make comments about me. They would buy gifts for each other and nothing for me. My parents also treated me like a burden. When I was younger, they would call me whiny and ask why I couldn't read my own bedtime stories or ask why I wanted to sit with them. If I asked for a hug, they would make it such a big deal and say they just wanted me to go away and be quiet in my room. When I had a bad day, they were too busy to hear me out. Most times they would eat without me too, and sometimes I'd come home and some or all of my siblings would be visiting and they'd have family dinners without me. Oh, the family dinners they had in restaurants and stuff never included me either. And once my siblings started having kids, I was the default babysitter. If we all vacationed together, I was only brought along to watch kids. Sometimes I was left in the hotel or place that we were staying alone and they would have family time. My siblings would just drop off their kids other times at home and tell me to babysit, and my parents would give them the okay. I was never asked. I know people will ask if I'm not the bio kid of one of my parents, but I am both their bio kid, 100% confirmed. It's just that I came along when they were done, and they resent me for it, and my siblings never wanted me. I tried speaking to my parents and my siblings about how I felt, but I'm brushed aside. I never tried writing a letter, but it won't make a difference, and I'm not pouring my heart out like that to have them not read the letter or toss it in the trash or something. I got so tired of it recently. I've been spending more time at my girlfriend's house, and I hang out with her family more. I started to stay there whenever I felt like they might need me for babysitting, and I have refused when told I needed to. On Saturday, they wanted to have a family night out and brought the kids over, but I wasn't home. Mum called and told me that I needed to come home and babysit. I told her to let everyone know that they can't use me as free childcare and treat me like shit for being an unwanted pregnancy anymore. I said I didn't have any say in it, and I'm not letting them do this to me anymore. Their reaction wasn't pretty, but I've stood my ground, which pisses them all off. Am I the asshole? In the comments, not the asshole. Print up a fee schedule and include payment required in advance of services. Let's see how that goes. I agree with you, OP. You're definitely not the asshole here. Setting boundaries with your family is completely valid, especially when you're being used for childcare without any consideration for your own needs. It's okay to stand up for yourself and seek healthier relationships, even if it means distancing yourself from toxic behavior. Not the asshole, and when you turn 18, cut them off. Toxic family is worse than a toxic friend. I agree. I see some responses here telling OP to do this and that, seemingly forgetting that he's a minor, 16, and kind of at their mercy to an extent. The most he can really do at this point is speak his mind, and maybe walk out when they attempt to get him to babysit, if he has somewhere to go. It would be nice if he could get a job and start trying to save some money, but that requires reliable transportation. At 18 though, as you said, he needs to get the hell out. I can't believe an entire family would treat him so poorly. They are pieces of shit. Not the asshole. Your family's treated you horribly, and they're not entitled to your time or effort, especially when they've made it clear they don't value or respect you. You're absolutely right to stand up for yourself. Good for you for setting boundaries and finding support with your girlfriend's family. I'm with everyone else on this one. Continue to maintain those boundaries and set new ones when they try and push further into the boundaries that you've already set. You recognize that they are completely using you, they do not care for you, they never have, and they likely never will, so why should you ever do anything for them? I don't blame you if you do cut them off in the future because they will have deserved it. Thank you for the story, OP. I hope all goes well for you in the future. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.